Hey friends! Today I've got a story to share, one full of feelings, twists and heart. I hope it keeps you engaged all the way to the end. Ready? Let's dive in. The soft glow of the afternoon sun streamed through the tall windows of Serendipity Bridal Boutique, casting golden light on Chloe Matthews as she spun slowly in front of the mirror. The gown she wore was a dream come true, silk and lace flowing around her like mist. Chloe bit her lip, searching her best friend Sarah Anderson's face for approval. Sarah, seated on a velvety settee nearby, gave a warm smile, though something unreadable flickered behind her eyes. "You look stunning as always," Sarah said, tucking a lock of dark hair behind her ear. "Liam's going to be floored." Chloe's mother, Eleanor Matthews, moved around her daughter like a whirlwind, adjusting the veil and smoothing the train. The seamstress worked wonders with those final tweaks. "It fits like a charm." "Mom, slow down," Chloe said with a laugh, gently taking her mother's hands. "Everything's just right. Take a breather. Resting on your wedding day. That's madness," Eleanor exclaimed. "Oh, and the apple cider donuts should be done. Sarah, honey, help me bring them in." As Sarah followed Eleanor to the boutique's back room, Chloe caught her friend's reflection once more. A fleeting glimmer of something, jealousy, crossed her face, but it vanished too quickly to trust. "These donuts are divine, Mrs. Matthews," Sarah said, returning. "Only New Hampshire could deliver this kind of perfection." "Oh, stop it, you've been calling me Ella since you were little," Eleanor chuckled. "You two have been inseparable since grade school." "Since Sarah punched Tommy Wilson for yanking my braids," Chloe grinned. "My little bodyguard." Sarah laughed, the sound bright and unforced. "You were too busy reading novels to see what was going on around you." "Speaking of protection," Eleanor said, turning toward Sarah, "isn't it time you found someone too? Surely there are a few handsome bachelors in that fancy ad agency of yours." "Mom," Chloe chided, but Sarah just gave an easy shrug. "Haven't met the right one yet," she replied casually, though something about her voice made Chloe look twice. "I'm focused on my career right now. Not everyone lands a Liam, you know." Just then Chloe's phone buzzed. A message from her fiancé lit up the screen. "Can't wait to see you in that dress tomorrow. Love you." The rest of the afternoon passed in a happy blur. Minor fixes, sweet pastries and flutes of bubbly. As the sun dipped behind Portsmouth's historic buildings, spilling amber light into the boutique, no one could have guessed how tangled and fractured their lives would become. But for now there was laughter, love, and the thrill of what lay ahead. Later, after Sarah and Eleanor left with the dress for safekeeping, Chloe stood alone, gazing at herself in the mirror one last time. Everything felt right, the gown, the man, the moment. So why couldn't she shake that look on Sarah's face? That evening, Mason Creek Barn shimmered under the New Hampshire sky, fairy lights glittering against its rustic frame. Inside, the reception was in full swing. Guests crowded the dance floor, swaying to a band's rendition of Sweet Home Alabama. Sarah lingered at the edge of the party, glass of champagne in hand, watching Chloe and Liam dance. "They really do look like a fairy tale couple," said a distant cousin of Chloe's, appearing beside her. Sarah nodded, summoning a smile. "Yeah, they do." She watched as Liam twirled Chloe, her laughter ringing like music. The dress shimmered under the lights, and for a moment, Chloe seemed to float. "Time for the toasts," Eleanor called. "Sarah, darling, you're up." Taking a deep breath, Sarah straightened her bridesmaid gown and walked to the front. The paper in her hand shook ever so slightly as she turned to face the crowd. "I've known Chloe since we were 6. She began, her voice calm though her heart pounded in her chest. "Chloe's been my partner in crime through scraped knees, shattered hearts, and that unforgettable disaster of a haircut in sophomore year." Laughter rippled through the crowd, and Chloe feigned mock indignation. "And now," Sarah continued, her gaze shifting to the groom, "she's marrying the love of her life, Liam." Her eyes met his, and though she smiled, her stomach twisted. "Take care of her," she said simply. "She's the most incredible person I've ever known." Applause followed her closing words, and Chloe embraced her tightly, tears glistening in her eyes. Liam offered a grateful smile, one that lingered just a bit too long. As the night unfolded in music and celebration, Sarah threw herself into dancing, hoping the rhythm would drown out her thoughts. Still, her gaze kept drifting toward Chloe and Liam, always smiling, always together. "You all right, sweetheart?" Eleanor's gentle touch brought her back. "Just caught up in the moment," Sarah replied, forcing a smile and accepting another glass of champagne. Dinner plates were cleared, replaced with slices of artisan cake. Summer flowers perfumed the air, and a whisper of rain hung just beyond the horizon. Sarah watched Liam guide Chloe onto the dance floor for a slow song, his hand resting intimately at her waist. "I need some air," Sarah murmured, slipping quietly out the side door. The breeze outside was cool and clean, calming the storm inside her chest. But the image of their first dance clung stubbornly to her mind, the way they'd looked at each other like no one else existed. "Escaping?" Sarah startled at Liam's voice. He appeared beside her, holding out a glass of water. "Thought you could use this." "Thanks." Their fingers touched briefly as she accepted it, and the contact sent a wave of unease, and something else, through her. "Shouldn't you be with Chloe?" "She's dancing with her dad," he replied, settling against the wall. "Your speech was beautiful." "I meant what I said," Sarah murmured. And she had, just not in the way they assumed. "She deserves every bit of happiness." "We both do." Liam nodded. "You're right." He straightened, brushing imaginary dust from his jacket. "Better head back." "You go ahead," Sarah said quietly. "I'll be there soon." She watched him rejoin the party, then closed her eyes and pressed her lips together to keep the tears in. She would survive this. She had no choice. For Chloe. Chloe stared at the coffee cooling in her cup, its steam curling into the early morning air. Beyond the kitchen window, the harbor stirred awake, fishing boats shifting like ghosts in the mist. 3 years of marriage had led her here, sitting in silence at sunrise, waiting for a husband who didn't come home. The door unlocked. Footsteps crossed the hardwood. Liam froze when he saw her. "You're up early," he said, loosening his tie. His shirt was rumpled, his hair a mess. "I never went to bed," Chloe replied softly. "Where were you, Liam?" He dropped his briefcase without looking at her. "I told you. There's a major merger coming up. The whole team's been pulling late nights." "Funny," she said, voice flat. "I called the office around midnight. Jessica said you'd left around 10. The silence was crushing. Liam ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she used to find charming. "Chloe, She raised a hand. "Please. Don't lie again." He sank into the chair across from her, the early light exposing the fatigue and something else etched into his face. "I don't know what you want me to say." "Try the truth." Her laugh was brittle. "Remember when we used to be honest? When we told each other everything?" "People change," he said. "They don't have to." She reached across the table, her hand open. But he recoiled. "We can fix this. Whatever it is, we can try. We could see someone, get help. Isn't that worth something?" "I can't do this anymore." The words landed hard like stones dropped into still water. "You can't do what anymore?" "This. Pretending it's all okay when it's not." "I'm not pretending," she said, voice cracking. "I'm fighting." "Maybe that's the problem." Liam stood. "Maybe some things just aren't worth fighting for." The breath left her lungs. "You're saying we're not worth it? That this, our life, means nothing to you?" "I need space," he said, already turning away. He disappeared into their bedroom and returned with a duffel bag she hadn't noticed tucked by the door. "You were already packed." It wasn't a question. It was a realization. "How long have you been planning to leave?" His silence was louder than any answer. Chloe's throat tightened. She forced the question out, one she'd buried beneath hope and denial for too long. "Is there someone else?" Liam paused, his hand on the doorknob. I'm sorry, Chloe. The door clicked shut behind him. The sound echoed through the apartment like a final nail in a coffin. She didn't move. Couldn't. The light from the rising sun spilled across the kitchen, golden and uncaring. She stared at the empty space where her husband had stood, her body suddenly heavy with grief. She tried to make it to the couch, but her legs gave out. She crumpled to the floor, the hardwood cool beneath her skin. Their wedding photos hung above her, smiling faces from another life. Two people who had once believed in forever. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. The denial she'd clung to for months crumbled completely. It was over. Their marriage was over. The coffee sat cold and forgotten on the table. Somewhere in the distance, a foghorn sounded across the bay, long and low, as if the harbor itself were mourning with her. 6 months later, Chloe stepped hesitantly into the bustle of the Portsmouth marketplace. The sounds and scents of the weekend crowd greeted her like a memory. The warm drift of fresh bread from Brown's bakery, the chatter of local vendors, the coastal breeze stirring her hair. It was all the same, yet nothing felt familiar. Miss Matthews. Mr. Parker called from behind his colorful produce stall. First strawberries of the season. She offered a faint smile as she approached. Still calling me that after all these years? Until you finally give up protesting, he said, already gathering a basket of berries. Haven't seen you round lately. I've been. She hesitated. Healing. His knowing nod said everything. In a town this size, her divorce had been public knowledge. We've missed your face here. And your smile. Chloe reached for her wallet just as a laugh carried over the hum of the marketplace. A sound that stopped her cold. She knew that laugh. She knew it too well. Her head snapped up. There by the flower stand stood Liam. He was laughing, relaxed. His arm protectively curled around the waist of a pregnant woman. Well, not just any woman. Sarah. Her best friend. The person who had been by her side since childhood. The woman who had promised to always be there. The basket of strawberries tumbled from Chloe's fingers, scattering across the cobblestones like small, crimson wounds. Miss Matthews. Mr. Parker's voice reached her as if through water. Sarah turned toward her. Their eyes met. Sarah's smile vanished, replaced by panic and something worse. Guilt. She gripped Liam's arm and whispered something quickly. He turned, saw Chloe, and his face paled. He took a step toward her, lips parting to speak. But Chloe was already gone. She pushed through the crowd, tears burning her vision. Chloe, please wait. Sarah's voice chased after her. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Not when the truth was unraveling everything she thought she knew. Her breath caught with each step. Images flickered in her mind. Sarah's evasions, the missed calls, the shrinking visits, the empty reassurances. All those times she had poured out her heart to her best friend, not knowing Sarah had already taken the one thing she couldn't bear to lose. Chloe turned a corner and stumbled onto a bench near the water. Her knees buckled, and she dropped onto it like her body couldn't hold the weight of the betrayal. The world kept moving around her. Passers-by, clouds overhead, boats rocking gently in the harbor. But she sat frozen, as if the truth had turned her to stone. She'd been so naive, so trusting. The two people she'd loved most had torn her life apart. A ferry horn blasted across the river, scattering a flock of gulls into flight. She watched them rise, wild white wings against a boundless sky. And for a moment she longed to be one of them. Unbound, unburdened, free. Finn's lower lip trembled, but he nodded. Chloe offered a reassuring smile, the kind her mother used to give her after scraped knees and broken toys. Do you know your address? He shook his head. I was with my mom at the farmer's market, but I saw a puppy and I ran after it. Then I couldn't find her. Chloe glanced around. The riverside park had mostly emptied out, the afternoon crowd thinning with the fading light. Okay, she said, keeping her voice calm. We'll figure it out. Want to come sit with me while we wait for someone to come looking? Finn hesitated, then took her hand. It was small and sticky from tears, but he gripped it like a lifeline. They sat on a bench beneath an old maple, golden leaves fluttering in the breeze. Chloe pulled a tissue from her jacket pocket and handed it to him. "Thanks," he mumbled. She smiled softly. "You're welcome." Minutes passed. Finn leaned against her without realizing, and Chloe let him. His weight was light, but something about it filled a space inside her she hadn't realized was still hollow. A young woman came running down the path, breathless and wild-eyed. "Finn!" The boy jumped up. "Mom!" They collided in a hug, his arms wrapping tight around her neck. The woman looked up at Chloe, tears in her eyes. Thank you so much. I was terrified." "I'm just glad he's safe," Chloe said. The woman knelt, brushing Finn's hair back. "Don't ever run off like that again, okay?" "I'm sorry," he whispered. She pulled him close, then turned back to Chloe. "I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't found him." "It's all right. He's a brave kid. Do you live nearby? I'd love to send you something. Cookies, flowers, something." Chloe shook her head gently. "Just take care of each other." They exchanged one last grateful glance, then walked away, Finn turning to wave as they disappeared around the bend. Chloe sat there a while longer, the bench still warm from where Finn had leaned against her. The late light bathed the garden in amber, and a breeze stirred the scent of marigolds and basil from the nearby plots. Something inside her had shifted. Not a dramatic upheaval, not a new beginning, just the faintest breath of possibility. She rose slowly, gathered her tools, and made her way toward the train station. The ache of the past hadn't vanished. Her grief still walked beside her, but tonight it felt lighter. Like the weight of the world had been redistributed, just enough to remind her what she was still capable of holding. "Can you describe your house for me?" Finn nodded eagerly. "It's blue, and there's a white fence in front. There's a big dog next door too, but he's nice." Chloe tried to place it. "Did you and your mom just move to the area?" "Yeah. The doctor said she needs clean air because she's sick. We couldn't stay by the beach. It's too expensive." Something pinched in Chloe's chest. She glanced at the time. Her train would be leaving soon. But she couldn't just leave him alone. "Let's get you back to her," she said gently. "She must be worried sick." They walked side by side along the quiet path, Finn gradually warming to her with stories about his school, his favorite cartoons, and the fort he'd tried building in the backyard. His voice was small but filled with eager trust, so much like the voice of the girl Chloe had once been. "Look!" he shouted suddenly, pointing. "That's my house." Chloe followed his gaze to a modest blue home with a white fence wrapped around the yard. "You've got a good memory," she said with a smile. Before she could say more, the front door flew open. "Finn, where were you?" Chloe's breath caught. Voice. It was impossible. But the woman in the doorway was unmistakable. Sarah. She was pale and thin, fragile even. Her once vibrant hair hung dull around her face, and her eyes were ringed with exhaustion. "I got lost," Finn explained as he ran up the steps. "But she helped me find the house." Sarah's gaze lifted to Chloe and froze. Her face drained of what little color it had. "Chloe, I should go," Chloe murmured. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. The train was already gone, but she didn't care. She'd walk if she had to. "Wait." Sarah's voice cracked, thin as thread. "Please." Chloe stopped, unwillingly rooted to the spot. 7 years of distance and armor trembled around her like glass under pressure. "Finn, sweetheart," Sarah said, her voice tender. "Go inside and wash your hands." The boy obeyed, leaving the two women alone in the deep silence of a collapsing past. "You look," Chloe faltered, "worn down, unwell." The words hovered unsaid. "I know." Sarah gave a ghost of a smile. "Funny, isn't it? Life has a way of settling debts." Her bitterness startled Chloe more than any apology would have. The woman before her wasn't the same one who had betrayed her so completely. "I missed my train," Chloe said softly, not sure why it mattered. Sarah's voice lowered. I know I don't deserve it. But please, don't go. Not yet. Chloe didn't move. Somewhere behind the curtain, Finn's face appeared briefly, like a memory given form. After a long pause, she gave the smallest nod. Some thresholds once crossed changed everything. In the weeks that followed, Chloe found herself returning to the hospital more than she'd expected. She hadn't planned to stay involved, but something about Sarah's quiet fragility, about Finn's shy smiles, kept drawing her back. Now, carrying a cup of coffee in one hand and a paperback in the other, she made her way down the familiar corridor of Portsmouth Regional. Inside the room, Sarah lay propped on pillows, her skin drawn and pale. You didn't have to come again, she said when Chloe walked in. I know. Chloe settled into the chair by the bed, placing the book on the side table. How are you feeling? Same as yesterday, Sarah murmured, tugging at her blanket's edge. Finn asked about you. He's a good kid, Chloe said. He reminds me of someone. A silence passed between them. Then Sarah spoke. There's something I need to tell you. About Liam. Chloe's chest tightened. You don't have to. He died. The words dropped into the space between them like lead. 5 years ago. A car crash. The coffee cup slid from Chloe's fingers, the contents splattering across the tile. What? He was with his girlfriend. They both died instantly. Sarah let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Turns out he cheated on me too. Poetic justice, maybe. Tears filled her eyes. I'm sorry, Chloe. For everything. Truly. A nurse poked her head in and began cleaning the spilled coffee without a word, glancing between them with quiet curiosity. Once the door clicked shut, the silence returned, taut and unspoken. Why now? Chloe asked finally, her voice quiet. Sarah looked out the window, where clouds drifted slow and pale against the afternoon sky. Why now? Chloe asked again, her voice barely audible. Sarah's voice trembled. Because I don't have much time left. And because of Finn. Chloe turned toward her, already fearing the answer. What about him? Sarah's voice cracked, raw with urgency. He needs someone. Chloe's chest tightened. Sarah, no. There's no one else, Sarah said, clutching her hand with a fragile intensity. No one who'll see him for who he is. Not just as Liam's boy, but as himself. Chloe stepped back, shaking her head. You're asking too much. I know, Sarah whispered, tears streaking down her hollow cheeks. But I'm asking anyway. He's innocent, Chloe. And you've always had more heart than anyone I've known. Chloe turned away, walking to the window. Beyond the hospital, Portsmouth Harbour glimmered, boats swaying gently on their moorings. How long? She asked quietly. 6 months. If I'm lucky, Sarah said. The chemo's not doing anything anymore. Reflected in the glass, Sarah looked like a shadow of her former self. I've made peace with it, she added. But Finn, he's just a kid. He deserves more. Chloe pressed her forehead to the cool windowpane. I'll need time. Sarah nodded, the tension in her shoulders easing ever so slightly. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no. 40 days after the funeral, autumn cloaked the cemetery in warm tones, crimson and amber leaves whispering underfoot as Chloe and Finn stood before the simple headstone. Do you think my mom can see me from heaven? He asked, his small hand tightening in hers. Chloe looked down at him. His eyes so familiar it ached. I think she's watching. And she's really proud of you. I miss her, he said in a voice barely louder than the breeze. But I'm trying to be brave like she told me. Chloe knelt beside him and adjusted his scarf. Missing her is okay. I miss her too. Even after what happened, he asked, his eyes wide with childlike honesty. Trust a child to go right to the heart of the matter. We had a complicated past, she said gently. But near the end, what mattered most was clear. What was that? He asked. Love. All kinds of love. Even the kind that hurts sometimes. Finn shuffled his feet, considering that. She said you have the biggest heart of anyone she's ever met. The words hit Chloe like a wave. She talked about me. All the time. She said I should trust you because she did. A red maple leaf drifted down and landed softly on Sarah's name. Chloe brushed it aside with care. Does it still hurt? Finn asked. Her being gone? Yes, she answered honestly. But it hurts differently now. Like remembering something too beautiful to forget. He nodded slowly. At least she's not hurting anymore. They stood in silence, watching morning light melt the last of the fog. Finally, Chloe gave his hand a squeeze. Ready to head home? We've got a snowman to make. Finn hesitated. About that. What is it? She asked, already sensing mischief. I need a snowman costume for the school play. All the boys do. But I didn't want to ask because you've been really busy lately. Chloe crouched to meet his eyes. Hey, you can always come to me no matter what. That's what families do. You won't be mad. Never. He hesitated, then blurted it out. I broke your blue mug. The one with the flowers. I was trying to make you breakfast like Mom used to. I'm really sorry. His voice shook as he said it, guilt etched into his small face. Chloe pulled him into a hug. It's just a mug, she said into his hair. You're what matters. They walked back to the car, passing through rows of names and years, the ground littered with fallen leaves. In the distance, the river shimmered under the morning sun, moving always forward. Can we stop for hot chocolate? Finn asked. With lots of marshmallows. Chloe smiled. That sounds like exactly what we need. As they drove, she thought of how much had changed. 7 years ago, she'd lost everything she thought made her whole. Now, somehow, she'd found something even deeper. A new beginning. Chosen family. Quiet kind of grace. And as it turned out, the most precious things often arrived in unexpected ways, even if they came with broken mugs and snowman costumes.